So what I found interesting is that you had managed millions and millions of dollars, had hundreds of employees, I guess, workers, and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
A very complicated operation with a lot of different moving parts. But when you went to prison and you got your life sentence, you didn't actually know how to read.
I didn't.
You were illiterate.
Totally illiterate.
Which is mind-blowing. Like, I mean, I guess anyone who's illiterate in America who's an adult, to me, is a bit mind-blowing. But you never just bothered to learn how to read.
Never. Never saw any reason why I should read. I didn't see where it was going to fit into my world.
Okay.
You know, if a person don't understand, it's like trying to get a person to walk around with an empty bottle in their pocket. They're not going to do it. For what? You know, why would I walk around with this, making my pants tight and taking up space I could put something that I'm going to use?
Okay.
And that's the way I looked at reading.
But once you got to prison, then you realized that if you don't learn how to read, you're going to be in there forever.
Yeah.
And then you started learning how to read.
Gradually. Just like I got in the drug business. I learned a lesson from the drug business when I was sitting there. I started going back over my life, analyzing it, and then I learned that when I started in the drug business, I knew nothing about selling drugs. But I wanted to learn how to sell drugs. And I found out that any time that it was something that I wanted, I always found a way to get it. And I approached reading the same way, that it wasn't going to be easy, that I was going to have to start off slow. And, you know, my cellie made me my cue cards. And I started off with my ABCs, learning my sounds. And
you were how old at the time?
30-something.
30-something, learning how to read at a first grade level, essentially.
Yep.
Yep.
Lower than the first grade.
Yeah.
Because my daughter, she's 4 and she's reading better than I could read then.
Wow. So your daughter's actually had more book smarts than you did at a 4 years old.
Yeah. And my son, I had a 6-year-old son who he just won reading and comprehension in the first grade at his school.
Okay.
So definitely they were both better at reading than I was at 35 years old.
But because you learned how to read, you're able to start reviewing law books in your cases, and ultimately you got your life sentence reduced to, what, like 10 years or something?
No, well, first 25.
25.
And then I won another appeal, and then I won another appeal, and then I got it down to, I think, 17.
Okay. So your lawyer, who you spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on, wasn't able to do as good of a job as you.
No, he thought that I was done. You know, he wouldn't even do the appeal. Even though he's in the documentary, you'll see what he says. He found the issue. Okay. I argued that issue with him. Me and him debated this issue over the phone like hours, and he was like, "No, Ricky, this doesn't fit you. Your conviction is from Texas, and your other conviction is from Cincinnati. That's different, you know." And I was like, "No, it's not the convictions or where the conviction was at. It's the way the convictions happen." So, yeah, man, learning how to read saved my life.
Yeah, literally. Now, you would refer to Nancy Reagan as a trap queen.
Yeah, I was just joking that day. You know,
Okay.
I mean, you know, it was.
Well, I mean, you were at your height. It was the 80s, so it was Reaganomics.
Ronald Reagan, yes.
Ronald Reagan.
Yes.
And then later on, you had Bill Clinton. And under Bill Clinton, more black people went to prison than under any other president.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, in retrospect, Bill Clinton actually said that their incarceration policies were not a good idea.
No, none of them was. Bill Clinton, he hurt a lot of people with, he took away the 2255 as well.
Which is?
Well, it used to be with the 2255, if you ever came up with evidence that would prove your innocence, you could submit it under 2255, but under his administration, you had a 2-year window to come up with that evidence. And if you didn't come up with it in 2 years, if you came up with it a month after, oh well.
Was there a big difference between Clinton's drug policies and Reagan's?
Well, I think Reagan really started to get tough policy. They implemented the 100-to-1 ratio. Crack to powder cocaine.
Right.
And
Which is crazy because ultimately they're just as addictive.
yeah, same drugs. I mean,
Same drug.
All the scientists came in, and testified that they were the same drugs, no different than. But at the end of the day, the courts went with, Congress's recommendation. And I got to have the guy who drew up the policy. He's on the documentary saying that when they drew it, they all knew that it was racially motivated.
But they still did it.
They still did it.
Okay.
What Clinton did is he saw how Ronald Reagan benefited from the war on drugs, so he came in and got even tougher.
Yeah. And this was sort of one of the reasons why black people, I think, ultimately didn't really support Hillary Clinton, because I think that most people of voting age had relatives who went to jail under her husband.
That's very possible.
Yeah.
I don't think that she really addressed us as a community either.
Yeah.
Didn't come out and embrace us. Quite a few black politicians were supporting her. But at the end of the day, blacks feel left out right now. We feel abandoned. The unemployment rate is at an all-time high. And, it's bad in the hood right now. Most of the... And they use these entertainers to justify that we were okay. The LeBron Jameses and the Kobe's and the Jay-Z's and the Denzels to say, and the Oprahs, that, oh look, you got Oprah. But when you add those people up to the millions of have-nots, then it don't equal out. A couple months back, I took some guys from North Carolina through downtown LA to see the homeless population, and they wanted to get some footage of it, and they couldn't believe it.
Yeah, Skid Row in LA is pretty fucked up.
Not pretty,
Yeah.
way fucked up. I mean, it's I get to travel the country now, and I get to go to a lot of places, and I don't think that there's a Skid nowhere worse than Skid Row when it comes to homeless.
Well, you fast forward to 2017, with Trump in office, Jeff Sessions is now looking to make tougher drug laws once again. They're looking to start prosecuting marijuana, federal marijuana laws. It almost seems like they want to roll back, the legalization of marijuana and so forth.
Yeah. I heard him say that they want to get tough on the recreational states.
Yeah.
But I don't think people are going to go for it. I think
so
people are fed up with the war on drugs. They know that it was a crock of shit. Excuse my French. They know that the news media all played a part of the hype. I mean, I read one time that Harvard had did a study, and they showed that the babies that they were showing on TV as crack baby was actually alcoholic babies.
Right.
Babies who mother was on alcohol and not crack cocaine. And it was just so many games played on people that made them lash out against people like me who basically was just trying to feed my family. I wasn't out to hurt nobody or see anybody do good, but nobody gave me any other opportunities. Nobody came in and would show somebody who was willing to be a hard worker. See, I was willing to work hard. I was willing to work as hard as anybody.
Right. And I think you had talked about how when you look at an average black kid from a poor neighborhood, the first successful business person they see growing up is a drug dealer.
Absolutely.
So that's who they
mimic.
Yeah.
That's who they respect. That's who they dress like. I mean, look at all the dress codes. Ice-T did the documentary called Planet Rock. And all those guys in there, RZA and everybody, talked about how they used to like the way the drug dealers dress.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Run DMC dressed like the drug dealers even.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So they love. I mean, hip hop loves drug dealers. Really, society. I ain't gonna just say hip hop.
Society.
Society does. They love drug stories.
Oh,
Look
yeah.
at Al Pacino is still a star from Scarface.
Oh yeah, I mean, Paid in Full is considered one of the greatest, hood movies ever. If you had to start off being a drug dealer today, how would you do it?
Well,
Completely from scratch.
I would go out, collect me some cans and bottles, raise me up $25, find the biggest drug dealer that I can that would sell $25 worth, go and sell that $25, turn that into $50, and just start from there. I would eat as least as I can. I wouldn't buy any clothes, and I would save every dime that I had.
What would you do not to get caught?
Well, I wouldn't be flashy. I mean, the cops are not, and they got a tough job. The cops got a tough job. And I'm not a friend of the cops either. By no means. You see these scars in my face, that's from police brutality. I've laid on the ground many times and sit on curves, hundreds of times. But they got a tough job. And catching me would be even a tougher job because I would hide from them. I would dress in ways that they wouldn't recognize me. I would drive cars that they didn't think I was driving. I would just be somebody that they least expected to be selling drugs. Only way I would get caught is the city would be saying, Freeway Rick, Freeway Rick.
Okay. And what you're describing is essentially what you went through. You were low key, you dressed like a bum, but ultimately you got caught.
Yeah.
Do you know of any drug dealers, major drug dealers, who ended up not getting caught?
I'm sure some. Yeah, I
Do
know.
you personally, I don't want you to name any names, but do you personally know?
I know a couple, yes.
You knew a couple.
They never went to prison.
Never went to prison.
Never went to prison.
And how did they not go to prison?
Well, they got satisfied. They quit.
They quit.
Yeah. They made enough money, bought them a nice house. And when I say a major drug dealer, $700,000-800,000 is pretty major in the drug business.
Okay.
Most people don't make $100,000.
Yeah.
Like people think. People think that selling drugs is just. I mean, it is easy, but it's not as easy as most people think. Everybody in it is not a millionaire. Everybody who's selling cocaine, heroin, or whatever it is not rich. There's a few, and there was a few that was able to get them a nice house, buy them a truck, a diesel truck, or a dump truck, and were able to walk away.
And start legitimate businesses.
Start a legitimate business.
Yeah.
My appetite was a little bigger.
Yeah, a lot
bigger. I wanted multiple businesses, and my ultimate goal when I got in was to get into the business and to get out. I think the lack of a formal education hurt me in a lot of ways. Not being able to read applications and contracts the way that they needed to be read, and also my background. Where my family came from. My family didn't have the wherewith to say, hey, Rick, let's go buy a McDonald's. And let's do the same thing with this McDonald's that you did with that $150 that you started with. Let's turn this McDonald's into 10 McDonald's. Or let's turn this one car into 100 cars. My family wasn't
savvy
enough to show me how to do that.